We are now being recorded, so I will call this meeting of the Bethel Public Utilities Commission to order for Monday, June 21st, 2021. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag,
flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first order of business is public input. Is there anybody who's not one of us on this? 3302, I think that's you, Marty, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so hearing no public input, I'll move on to correspondence. I don't think we have anything come in, Kath? All right. In that case, entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of May 17th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pete, motion by Pete, second by Rich. Are there any corrections, any discussion about those? And hearing none.
Yeah. Matt.
Oh, yeah, okay, go ahead, Marty.
On the invoices for PUC approval.
Yeah.
My bill where it says it's the sewer department, I think that's supposed to be the water department. There should be 2 sewer and 2 waters. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm looking this month.
Are you, yeah, these are the minutes, so, okay,
Right.
all right, so we'll. start
Sorry.
with this, right, all right. Okay, so any changes to the minutes?
Right.
And those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, that motion carries. Okay, now we're on to invoices. So let's see, to start this, I'll put a motion on the floor to approve invoices dated June 21, 2021, 9 items in the amount of $120,493.25. So now this one, Marty, what item were you referring to?
The second one down, number 2.
All right, item
I
number
believe
2.
that amount is for the water department. It's not for the sewer.
Okay. Okay, so we'll make that correction. All right, so give you guys a few minutes to look over the backup for that. Let Bob know if you have any questions. Hey, Marty? Oh, you hung up the phone, okay. All right, there you go. Okay, any questions about the invoices? You guys ready to vote?
Yep.
All right, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries. Okay, new business. We have prepared draft budgets for the upcoming fiscal year.
Excuse me, Matt, you missed the financial report.
Financial report.
Oh, financial report, you're right. All right. Okay, Bob, take it away.
Okay. So for the month of May, our total revenue for the water department is $5,406,376. Our expenses are $3,378,073. That leaves a surplus of $2,028,303. In the sewer department, the revenue is $4,044,044, expenses $2,808,000, and a surplus of $1,235,000. Looking at the expenses, first off, in the water department, a couple of the big items again are water main maintenance. We budgeted 65,000, we're at 132, and that essentially is the Greenwood Avenue water leak that we had starting back in December 2019 that ran through into this year. Contracted services that was budgeted for 40,000 wound up being at this point 48,098, and some of the bigger items, Cannondale generator is at $8,400. Heck Hack, H-A-C-K Company, 9845. 13,000 to Hydro Technologies, in the state of Connecticut. Well, that's only, $980. No, it's not. It's $6,171. And then, a bunch of little ones that add up to the $48,000. I'm not exactly sure which these items pertain to, but I think Tom could probably give you a better idea what's going on in the contracted services area. Then moving on to the sewer department, plant maintenance, $143,000. There was Blake Equipment received 26.6, Cannondale again, 40,600. Kovacs Company, 28,800. Pembroke Pumping, 18,119, and then a few smaller ones. And Tom mentioned to me this morning that there's a couple of different things going on with the plant, so that over the course of the fiscal year, it's added up to $143,000. And then one of the other items that I broke out from last year or last month, the contracted services to between the city of Danbury and just regular contracted services. And we've made 3 payments right now to the city of Danbury, each for $213,481. So that adds up to $640. And the balance, I moved out of that one category into the contracted services that we had budgeted $60,000 for. And we have roughly $14,000 right now that was expended. Other than that, I think everything seems to be okay. I don't see anything that pops out. One thing, if you looked at the report, what we tried to do to follow what we're doing with the town is consolidate the salaries into one account, 5102. That's the account number we use in the town for all the different departments. We put everything together for a particular department and show the salaries that way. So in water and sewer, if you looked at the report, you'll see the combination of those two things. I have it broken out if anybody wants a breakdown between the budgeted amount and the actual amounts, but I'm just trying to be consistent with what's going on with the on the town side. And that's about it.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah,
Rich,
Bobby, you had mentioned you had the budget number and the actual number handy.
Yep. I just got to get it out. Okay, yep. So if you look at the water, for instance, the utility director, it's split between the two departments, water and sewer. So there's 55,000 in each. And for the month of May, it's 53,701 in both departments. Utility supervisor, again, the same, it's split between the two accounts, 52,000. And then current year to date is 48,085. The plant supervisor, we only have that in water, is budgeted at 82,800, and the salary is at 76,933. And then the operator salaries. In water, we have 207,500 budgeted, and we expended 231,476. In sewer, we budgeted 129, and we spent 164,000 and up to May. And then overtime was 25,000 in water, and we spent at this point 30,375. And sewer was 15 budgeted, and 20,000 was spent to date. And that pretty much ties into the numbers that we have on the reports.
Hey, Bob,
Yep,
the only question I have is, our supervisor and our town engineer are non-union people,
correct.
right? So how can you lump all the salaries together when you have union personnel salary and non-union personnel salary?
We're doing that right now on the town side because like myself and Brad, we're a non-union, and then the other 3 girls are union employees, but we're putting them together. We can always pull them apart. We got to go into Munis and separate the numbers. but it can be done, but it creates a little more efficiency within the Munis software to do it this way. That's all.
My personal opinion, I'd rather see it separated so we know exactly what's going on with them salaries instead of
Okay.
when we do a budget, we got to keep pulling them out every year. Just totally separated so we know. And then, yeah,
Okay,
That's my
I mean,
personal-
I mean, if you want, if the commission wants it done that way, I mean, it's not an issue. It's not a major problem.
Yeah, can be done.
I think we should, Bob, on that one. Because I think between management being non-union and his salaried employees union, I think we should break them apart
Okay,
or
right.
sewer and water.
okay, we'll get that done for next month in the year end.
Thank you.
in the
Thank
budget.
you.
You're
Same
welcome.
thing, we should do the same thing for the budget too, so
Yep.
that,
Yep,
okay.
that can be done.
So,
One other-
Bob, thanks for all those numbers, but a lot of numbers. You have a bottom line of what the actual was versus the budgeted numbers?
Yeah, so like in water, the bottom line, what we call 5201, is 442, and we budgeted 423. That was in water. And it's what we're doing is we're not charging everybody exactly to either water or sewer. We're doing a 40-60. or
Yeah,
60-40
no,
split.
that's,
So that kind of distorts things.
yeah,
And then in the sewer department, we have 252.6 budgeted total salaries type accounts. And the actual is 287,877.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All
No,
right,
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the financial report for this month.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Paul, second by Peter, was that you?
Motion by Peter, second by Paul.
Okay, all right, either way. All right,
It
good.
doesn't matter.
Go.
Don't make any difference.
All right, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That carries. Okay, so now we're on to the budget, and thank you for that, Bob. So, Tom or Bob, who wants to go first? We're gonna start with water. You want to, give us a rundown of, water department budget proposed for 2022?
Sure. Bob, I'd suggest you just start start at the top of the page with the numbers you guys usually put together. And
Okay.
I could jump in there for the supply distribution and treatment.
Yep, so starting with the salary item, again, they're combined. But for instance, the budget amount of 447, we have details for the, utility director, supervisor, plant supervisor. I'll break those out. If you want to, if you not going to vote on it tonight, I can have it ready for the next meeting. Operator salary. So starting at the top, the utility director is 60,000. The supervisor is 52,000. Water plant supervisor 82,800. Operator salary is 217,431. Overtime is budgeted at 31,100, and longevity at 2,420, and that adds up to the 447 that's being budgeted in account number 5102. Following down that line, Social Security is 7.65% that we have to pay on the salaries that are expended. So that comes up to 39,947. Hospitalizations based on the employees, but again, it's based on a 60-40 split. So you might have a single family or two-member family or a single person, two-member and a family plan. So it's going to distort it a little bit, but we're budgeting 198,469 for hospitalization. Pension, 88,398, and that's just based on the actual reports that we have right now, and it's an allocation to sewer and water. And then we've got the $2,000 for clothing rental, not rental, but the clothing expense, safety shoes, etc. Workers' comp, an allocation directly from our insurance carrier, 45,619, and the same thing with the liability and property insurance for 28,220. So the personnel costs add up to 850,404.70 in the water department. And then moving on to the actual distribution and treatment. Tom can take over from here.
Sure. Not too many real surprises. I have our, what I was proposing as budgets. I went down a little bit on heating oil. A lot of my adjustments or numbers are based on what we did actual for the year. So heating oil, we actually spent less than what we budgeted, so I came down a bit on the budget. Electric, I don't think we're going to quite cover what we budgeted, so I bumped that by 10,000. Chemical supplies are pretty close, so I have a slight increase in there, $3,000. Gasoline, other supplies, equipment maintenance, I kept the same. Plant maintenance, looks like we actual was down a bit, so I reduced that by about 10,000. Vehicle maintenance, I kept the same. The other items you can see, I kept a few of those the same. Meter maintenance and hydrant maintenance, I bumped down by about $5,000 a piece. The one account we talked about earlier that was well over, that was the water main maintenance. Of that 132,000, 70, almost 75,000 of it was left over from Greenwood Avenue. So the balance of that account in the actual was about 57,000. So I kept us the same there at 65. Auditing, bumped it up a little bit. Legal, bumped it down a little bit. Contracted services, bumped it up a little bit. Capital projects, again, we're varying what we're doing. Last year had the tank, so that was quite a big number. So we're down a bit now with what I'm proposing for capital. Contingency kept the same, miscellaneous kept the same. So at the bottom line there is our personnel costs, which includes that bottom line 2,764,000 includes the personnel costs from up above. Then really the second page is mostly items we filled in from the finance department. So we have the allocation of salaries from the finance department, public works secretary, the tax collector salaries, office expenses. So those numbers broke out about even. And below that, you see the principal and interest on loans. And it's pretty straightforward from there. Bottom line, subtracting expenses from revenue, we have a balance. If you look at that transfer outline of 98,687, that would be our plus balance at the end of the year when you looked at all revenue and all expenses.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Just one quick question. Are we using the heating oil that's in reserve over at Berry School? Are we, because we've got so much of it over there. I think we have about 15,000 gallons there.
Well, I don't know
Am I
if we have
wrong?
that much because I think that tank is only 10,000 gallons.
Okay, whatever it is.
Yeah, but no, we were only using that when we had an issue, and you can see we don't use much heating oil at all. I mean, in the water department this year up until May we used 4,200, and in sewer it's only $1,500. We're hardly using that much in oil. But no,
Yeah, I just want to.
at one time we did transfer oil from one place to the other. But,
Okay.
Also, Berry is one of the town accounts. So I don't know that we would have mixed and matched with utilities in the town.
Yeah, we'd
There's
have
excess
course from one to the other, and
Yeah, you'd probably, if you were going to have any oil to reuse from Berry, I assume you'd use it at one of the other town locations first.
Or PUC would have to buy it.
right, exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to use it up, that's all.
I know.
All
I
right,
mean, at the town hall, we did use a lot of the oil that was in the tank in the back.
Okay,
now it's been transferred over and we still haven't put the smaller oil tank in. And I think they were calling for 500 gallon and then they talked about 1,000 gallon back there, but nothing's happened so far.
Okay.
So.
Is the commission comfortable voting on this tonight?
Is that the bottom line number, the 3,000,005 or 501?
507.
That's the total expenses, including personnel costs. So the bottom line, like Tom said, the number that's in transfer out represents the balancing figure. That would be the surplus, $98,000, 98,687. When we put it into Munis, we have to put it in as a transfer out. I mean, like last year, I think we showed it separately, but this is the way it follows suit with the Munis system, accounting software.
So basically, if the revenue is 3,507,127 at the very bottom of page 2, the total expense budget, which is a little bit above that, is actually the transfer out amount take away from the total expenses.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're leaving
All right,
a surplus
looking
of
at
98,000.
This year's budget versus next year's budget. And in the, where is it, debt services, it was 1,000,001. How come it was so much last year? Was that for the,
No, but that's you see, last year we had budgeted a bigger surplus, 823,000. When you look at the debt service section, the state loans, they've gone up about 50,000 because there's 2 new loans that have started. I think it's the water mains, and I forget what the other one was.
The tank, Chestnut
The
tank.
tank, okay. And then you got the interest. So the interest went from 81,000 to 94, 95,000. But the big variance in there is the transfer out. Last year, we were budgeting a bigger surplus. And in fact, so far, we have a pretty decent surplus, probably far exceeding that number. And in 22, it might be a little bit tighter, but it's better to budget conservatively than to try to,
oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's a
Rich, if you
great-
just add up the
it's a
two
great
numbers,
number.
the principal and interest, last year's budget is going to come out to be about 282, the 201 plus the 81. And this year it's going to be on the order of like 350, the 256 plus 94.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Just looking at the, if you look the bottom line numbers, they're, really far apart.
yeah. And the other thing too is I think the capital projects, last year, they were budgeted at $3 million. And this year only about half, 1.4.
No, okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
If you guys want to study this for a cycle, that's great. If you're ready to vote on it, then somebody can make a motion. It's up to you guys.
I have no problems as long as Bob breaks out the salaries. That bottom line is still the same, but I think as we go forward in the monthly reports, just as long as that's broken out, I have no problem with it as it is.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem.
We should have that by next meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Yes.
break that out for you.
Both.
And
yeah.
and we'll make sure the bottom line numbers match.
Rich,
You bet.
Rich, had your hand up?
Yeah, well, I was going to make a motion that we approve the budget as submitted.
Okay, all right. Is there a second? All right, second by Paul. Any further discussion on the water budget? And hearing none, try your minds. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you. So now we'll move on to the sewer budget. So Bob, I'll let you start again.
Okay, pretty much the same routine, the salaries of 280, 06661, that's broken down by the categories of utility director at 60,000, utility supervisor 52,000, operator salaries of 144,722, overtime at 22,065, and longevity at 1,280,000. So that adds up to the 280,066. And then again, the social security is 7.65%. So that comes up to the 27,105. And by the way, it's not only on the 280, it also includes the salaries from the allocation of finance, collection, and also the PW secretary. And then the hospitalization, the allocation of 134,000, pension 60,813. The clothing again, $1,000. Workers' comp, 35,123, and liability and property insurance, 20,225. So they add up to the personal costs add up to $558,350.
All right.
And then looking at the operating expenses, again, if you follow across, I went mostly down on a couple of items and stayed the same in the rest. I'm down a little bit in what I'm budgeting for heating oil. If you jump down to sewer line maintenance, we didn't really have a lot. Although we've had more in past years, but I bumped it down about 20,000. Meter maintenance, I bumped it down. Legal slightly down, and capital projects are slightly up. And then on the second page, same setup. You got the finance department, public works secretary, and tax collection services that get charged to utilities, and those bottom lines came out to be about the same from last year's budget to this year. If you look at that transfer out number of 32,000, that's basically our bottom line surplus for the year. The debt service is self-explanatory. That's in there. Looks to be a little bit down from the previous year. And revenue is close, slightly down from the previous year. So our bottom line is a plus 32,035 for year ending.
Okay. Questions? And of course, we got the same issue on salaries, so Bob will take care of that, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm just looking at, I looked at the safety shoes, was 2,000 on the water side and 1,000 on the sewer side. We got $3,000 for safety shoes and clothing.
We've got more people on the water side than we have the, and it's not only safety shoes. I think it's shirts and whatever else that they have to buy, but that was it's just a
No,
budget.
I'm not picking. I just see one for 2,000. I see one for 1,000. I just think, well, how many people have on the sewer side?
Sewer side is just 2, so that's where your 1,000 is covered, and then the water side is 4. And I don't get allowance for clothing. That's part of your union contract, and Ed also gets it dealing with all the chemicals because Ed's not in the union.
I'm not questioning you. I'm just looking
Yeah,
at.
no, I'm just I'm explaining. It never split evenly because there's really just 2 guys on the sewer side.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tom or Kelly, how are the pumps at the pumping station on Paul Street? We've been rebuilding those. Do we need to add some more money in the plant maintenance for that pump?
I started out, Rich, with, we replaced one pump, 2 years ago, Kelly?
Yes.
And one pump was probably done not long before then. Is that about right?
Completely done. It's been a while, but the number 2 pump is the one that was the worst, and that's the one that we replaced 2 years ago.
Okay. In my capital, Rich, I took out replacing a pump at Paul Street just based on some of the other projects we want to do. The biggest being a rebuild of the Clark 2 pump station, where we need the controls, we need a generator. If I may have budgeted higher from numbers that I got from our consulting engineer, if we get some actual numbers that are favorable, we may have room then to go back and look at a pump at Paul Street. But right now they're pumping okay, so I don't have anything in to replace a Paul Street pump for this year specifically.
Well,
Yeah.
we actually spent 140,000 this year.
Right.
And
Okay.
we're only budgeting at 50. What does it cost to rebuild one of those pumps, Kelly?
Well, it's not the point of rebuilding to put a new one in there because they've been gone through so many times. I think we spent around between 60 and 70 on pump number 2.
Correct.
We are discussing another way of going with a submersible pump. So we don't have to worry about these Chesterton seals that have been failing. It's actually a submersible pump, but it goes on the base the same way. Everything is sealed. We've heard of 2 or 3 stations that have been doing that down, I think Trumbull. It was either Trumbull or Stratford had just done that. And it seems like that's the way they're going now. They're going toward a submersible pump, but it's not submersed. It's basically put right on the flue.
What's that cost?
We haven't got an exact price, but we're probably thinking between 80 and 1,000 and 100,000.
Yeah, because you're cutting yourself close.
We're-
You're cutting yourself close then with the budget figures.
Yeah,
Well,
And just so you know, Rich, too, I didn't explain it when I went through the first time. That plant maintenance account that's well over, it came down to a couple of specific projects that came up last year. If you recall, very early on in the year, we were in the midst of COVID and all the rag and wipes problems that were showing up. And I guess it hadn't been done for about 3 years, Kelly, you say, the wet well at Paul Street?
yeah, it had at least been a couple, yeah, where we had to, we put the system on bypass.
Right, so that was expensive. That 143 included, I came up with about 30, almost 31,000 just to do the Paul Street, putting it on bypass and getting that all cleaned out. The other big expense in that for the actual was the Stony Hill 1 rebuild. We had some issues with the floats and they were all tangled in a mess and the control panel was a bit of a mess. So in rebuilding that station with modern transducers, backup floats, and then replacing the control panel and the electrical control panel, that came in at about almost 39,000. So
Yeah.
that
No, and I had no
143,
problem with that. The smaller pumping station it's Paul Street I'm concerned about. And
Right.
what about the we got money in there for a new generator on that?
yes,
That's
we
in
do.
this budget or this year's budget?
I have it in this coming budget that the capital that I have. in
That's
the-
under capital?
Yes, it's in the capital, correct.
what about the extra electrical work that has to be done? Is that figured in there too?
For the generator,
Yeah, because Kelly said he had some other electrical stuff they had to do in connection with the new generator. Is that correct, Kelly?
Yeah, at this time, what we thought was we would go for the generator. We're having no problems with the transfer switch, and they can adapt to that transfer switch now, because that's about, from one quote we got on the transfer switch was $35,000. It seems to be working fine. We had a couple the guys look at it that were sizing out the generator, and they felt to be no issue to tie it in at this time.
Well, how old is the transfer switch?
Oh, it's got to be 30 years old.
I wouldn't want to hang my head on that. 30
Yeah.
years old and not worry about replacing it. 30 years old, I mean, come on. It's something that you should really look at.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we only got one quote on it. We did get some pretty good figures between the generator companies. I'll explain that a little bit later.
All right, so in the capital, if we wanted to put some money in there for that new pump on Paul Street, that's where it would go in capital or plant maintenance?
well, I budget some of those larger items in that capital item, Rich. I look at it as a new pump. It should be capitalized.
All right, what does it do to the budget if we raise capital $100,000 between the pump and the transfer switch?
It's gonna put us, we're right now at a positive where are we? We're at a positive 32. If we add in 100, we'll be at a negative 68. But my understanding is we have a fair amount in reserve that we would be able to transfer in. I think we would just probably have to vote on that. And Bob, you could probably explain the process of moving some of that money in from our reserve into our current year.
Yeah, I've always talked about the do to and do from with the between the town and either water or sewer. Sewer is probably sitting somewhere around, well, it's a floating number, but 964,000 right now is the last number I had. So we could always take money from there and transfer it in. You wouldn't have the 32,000 transfer out at that point, but in order to balance off the budget, whatever that number is, you could put in 80,000, 100,000, and it would wind up being a break-even point. But that's a number right now that's based on June 30th, 2020. And you know, the numbers that we talked about with the year-to-date figures, and those are before being audited, but we have a nice profit there too. So that's only going to add to the $964,000.
I think it makes more sense to do it, to have it in
It's
there.
there. The money is there. There's no question about it.
I mean, we overspent the sewer line by the railroad tracks. I mean, there's nothing to protect us, so.
Mhm.
Bob, is there?
I'll make a motion that we add $100,000 to capital for transfer switch to, and looking towards replacing the third pump at Paul Street.
Hey,
I second the motion.
well, wait a minute, let me back up. Tell you what, so we do this in proper order. I'll make a motion that we accept that we approve the budget as presented. Somebody second that for me?
Second.
Okay, now, Rich, make your motion as an amendment, and Pete can second it, then
All right.
that way we've got it in the
I'd
right.
like to amend the budget by $100,000 in capital for future pump number 3 at Paul Street and replacing the transfer switch with the generator project.
I second the motion.
Okay, great. Now, so we have a motion, so we have a main motion, now we have a motion for an amendment. Is there any more discussion on this particular issue pertaining to the 100,000 to the amendment? Before we vote, this is of course is why we like to have a surplus for things like this. I would just caution the commission that as we move into the next year, 100,000 as a one-off to put into the budget to balance it is okay, but if we have to look at rates, we're looking at that for next year anyway. We have to just keep an eye on it so we don't start dipping too fast into that. But so I'll try your minds on the amendment. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 That carries. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the sewer budget as amended. Is there more discussion on that?
Matt, I just wondered, do you have to vote on, now it's going to be a transfer in of 67,964 and the transfer out of 32,000 is going to go away. If you add those two numbers up, it's $100,000.
Right. Yeah, we don't have to vote on that separately. We just voted.
But that's just a procedural,
Right.
Right.
Okay, any further discussion on the amended budget then? And hearing none, I'll try your minds. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 That carries. Thank you very much, Tom and Bob. Appreciate that.
Okay.
So, Tom, you're still up, director's report, and then I'll add that one thing that we talked about earlier.
Okay, director's report, I didn't really have anything to add other than what I would jump into as far as the PUC capital. So Matt, if you'd like me to throw it back to you for an item that you wanted to bring up.
All right, yeah, there's one thing that Tom and I were talking about that I want to bring the commission up to date on. This involves a business in town. We got a call about 2 weeks ago from a gentleman who owns the Crossroads Car Wash, and that, of course, is that small car wash that's by the Sycamore on Grassy Plain Street. The gentleman who owns it, Mr. Lutz, called and spoke initially with the tax collector's office, and he was concerned about his water bill, which had escalated, as he explained on his by a factor of 3. So we looked into the records, and here's what we found. This is, and I talked to Pete about this because I knew Pete was the inspector at the time, and he knew what used to be on that property. Where that Crossroads car wash is located used to be where the old O'Donnell's gas station was, and there was a gas station and a single-family residential home. At the time that the car wash was built, and this goes all the way back to 2003, there was an existing service line into that property, which was a standard residential line, a 5/8 inch water line with a standard residential meter. However, when the car wash was constructed, due to the, I think it's got 4 car wash bays, and a 2-inch line was put in and a 2-inch meter. However, it was discovered about 3 or 4 months ago, and I am still not clear as to how this was discovered, but there was a discovery that the record-keeping system internally in our tax collector's office was never adjusted to reflect the fact that the 5/8 inch meter was taken away and the 2-inch line was installed with a 2-inch meter. So what this means is, so this was discovered by a technician, I think it was Bill Benzing who discovered this. He reported it and the records were corrected and the proper bill went out. Now with the 5/8 inch meter, that meter, and Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but this registers with each click of the dial 10 gallons.
Yes, the 5/8 does. It's got one standard 0 on it.
Yep.
And the 2-inch has 2 standard zeros. And somewhere that fell through the cracks over the years.
Yep. So what this means is instead of registering 10 gallons with each revolution of that meter, the man was actually consuming, the business was actually consuming 100 gallons. So what this literally means is, since 2003, the business has only been charged for 10% of its actual usage. So again, this was corrected. Nobody has a desire to go back and bill in arrears. You're only allowed by law to go back 3 years. Nobody wants to do that, but to actually just bring the problem into focus, his most recent quarterly bill for both water and sewer is $10,836. And for the same quarter 1 year ago, the bill was $2,700. So this is an enormous problem. The gentleman believes that his business is no longer viable, that the water bill will make his business unsustainable, that he will be now in a position where he can't even sell it because the pricing would have to go up so much as to make it an uncompetitive business within our town limits. He believes this is the town of Bethel's fault. He told me today, and I've had numerous conversations with him. He says that he and his engineer back in the early 2000s sat with our planning department and with others, he could not remember the names, and they went over the water usage, the projected water usage with the manufacturer's specifications from the equipment he was putting in, and that this was never brought up. Tom and I talked about this. I have asked the gentleman to have his engineer get in touch with us to see if there's anything we can suggest to help him. He would like to have a special rate assigned. I explained to him that we cannot, either ethically or legally, charge one business a different rate than any other business that has a similar usage pattern. So it's a real problem. And I wanted to make I have no resolution to suggest for you tonight. I just wanted to make you aware of it because it's going to take some time to work through this. We may hear from his engineer sometime in the near future, and Tom and I will work and see if we can suggest something. I do know that the business did not put in any kind of a water reclamation or recirculation system. Which is something that maybe we can suggest to his engineer that they explore that possibility. But I just wanted to put it on the record that this, in case you heard about it, as I said, he's quite upset, as one might imagine. He has said he might go to the press. So I wanted to make sure that we were all aware of this particular problem. So that's it. That's all I have to say on that. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them, but that's where we are. Yeah, Pete, go ahead.
All right, when he came, he was told at that time, was he gonna reclaim the water? And he goes, no. But he did put 2 tanks in to put a reclaim system in at that time.
Mhm.
But he said at that time he wasn't going to do it. The tanks are there. He just never went ahead to do the reclaim system.
Okay.
Now, it's our fault because we didn't hook up the reclaim system, but he was informed at that time that it'd be very viable to put that reclaim system in because he's dumping water down the sewer.
Mhm.
And he said, at this time, I'm not interested in doing it, but the tanks are in place.
Okay.
So the burden of proof dumps onto him, not us.
Yeah.
And that would be
the-
quite a large expense he doesn't have to now go through to now install tanks if he's got them there already.
That's right, they're there.
Yes.
I know they're there because the plumbing contractors helped put the tanks in at that time.
Mhm.
So,
The only other
Well,
comment I had for Matt earlier was for him to like relook at what his water demand is, what he thinks he needs for water. And then we can help determine, hey, is a 2-inch meter oversized and can he scale back a little bit? Kel, do you know when it goes back to a fixed zero? Is 1.5 inches, does that
It's
still have
1
2
inch.
zeros?
I think it's 1 inch, but the quarterly rate on 1.5 inches versus a 2-inch is much cheaper, but I don't think it goes back to one standard zero until 1 inch.
Okay. And a 1-inch meter may not be enough for them. So that's
No.
something they would have to determine what's their demand, and then we can size the meter, properly.
Right. Oh, yeah, that seems feasible. I mean, we had the records of how much water he uses,
Mhm.
Correct.
and there's the charge for the 2-inch meter. He's paying a certain upcharge for the 2-inch meter. But what about on the sewer side? Is it just per gallons he's paying on the sewer side?
Yeah.
There's a meter charge also on the sewer side.
Oh, there is.
Yep.
of course,
It's not a lot of money. I just real quick looked and it was, it's about a $500 savings if you went from a 2-inch to 1.5 inches. That would be water and sewer combined. So his real
Well,
number is going to be the consumption.
Yeah. He's got to look at his volume that he's using there and see if he can reduce his volume.
And if he recycles, that may help him out quite a bit. We don't know unless he looks at it.
Yeah,
Most auto washers, they have reclamation, okay?
Mhm.
No matter which one you go to, you could see the sludge that they're accumulating, either in a truck or a waste container, okay? It's really not our problem. It's really his problem.
Mhm.
And I don't think we should be able to give him a special rate because of a screw up on a meter. It's not it, because when he engineered that thing, he knew how much water he was going to use. And if he's got the reclamation tanks, that's his responsibility.
Mhm. Well, the town, you're exactly right, Paul. The town certainly has some embarrassment that, this went on since 2003. It was only discovered recently, but nevertheless, it's still an engineering problem that, the rates are what the rates are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we had a very thorough discussion about that. I, explained to him where the town was going to fall in there. We'll ask his engineer to look at the reclamation system. We'll look at the water volume and see if even if it's a little savings with 1.5 inches or even 1 inch, who knows? But that's the best we can do.
and he's been there quite a while, hasn't he? How many years has he been there?
Since 2003, so what is that, 17, 18 years?
Yeah, sure.
I mean.
Quite a bit of
and we're-
savings he got on his water bill for all those years.
No
And so-
question about it. He could have paid for the reclaim system.
So he realized quite a bit of, savings.
Yes, no question about it.
Hey, Matt,
Yeah,
Mark. So that number that you gave us before, was that a quarterly billing? Where it
Yeah,
was
that was
like
it.
$10,000?
yeah, that's the
ahead.
most recent bill. That's for the most recent quarter. Ending stated April 13th.
Well, I ran some quick numbers and I know that we didn't charge the same amount back in 2003, but at the current rate and with the amount of water that he was using, he's already gotten from the town $500,000 worth of water.
Yeah.
Right.
If you use base rates and you go back to 2003, obviously it's less than that because it was cheaper, but that just gives you the idea of the amount that he's already saved and put in his pocket. That's where it went, right in his
The only other thing I'll add too is his quarterly bill this time last year may be dramatically less, but we were kind of just getting started with the pandemic at that point.
Yeah.
And
compare.
business may have been way down. So I would be curious to see what a similar quarter from the year before that was and the year before that.
They're pretty consistent.
Okay.
Quarterly bill from 2020 was 2695. The quarterly bill from 2019 for the same quarter was 2247. So
Okay.
not significantly different.
Well, he was getting such a discount on the water, he didn't have to put the recovery system in.
Yeah, right. Well, Tom and I will keep you guys informed, but that's, just wanted to keep you in the loop on this because I'm sure we'll hear more about it. So, yeah,
What was the issue there? What was the issue when Benzing went back there? Did the meter failed? Was there a 5/8 meter there or was there a 2-inch meter there?
I don't know that. Kelly, do you have any insight on that?
You know what, it was such a while ago, I don't remember, but there should be some sort of a ticket there. Paul should have a ticket as to why we're there. I don't know whether it was due to a stop meter or not.
They changing the reader or something?
It could have been just a new MIU.
Yeah,
But basically the mess up was in the billing department that when they changed it from the 5/8 for the address to the 2-inch, they never picked that
Right,
up.
they never added the zero.
So he's really had the 2-inch meter there all that time, but
That's correct. Yep. Okay, so we'll move on to old business. Tom, you're up again for the PUC capital project summary.
Okay, as far as capital projects, our sanitary sewer rehab, the contractor is mobilizing to start, I think, later this week. I think his first steps are going to be CCTV, camera work, and root treatments. The Chestnut Tank, there's really not much else going on. There is a couple of punch list items that will need to be corrected by the contractor. There's going to be no cost to us on those, but he's got to fix a couple of electrical related items, changing out some, I think he had some flex conduit and he needed to put in rigid, and there's a couple little items that Wright Pierce has on their list that he needs to come back for. On the Bergstrom well, design is continuing. They're at about approximately their 30% design stage. The boring contractor was out there last week, so that'll allow them to proceed with their foundation design. And lastly, our new water main, the 2021 water main project. We've got contracts signed. The notice to proceed's been sent to the contractor. I've gotten some submittals from him. We're going to be scheduling our pre-construction meeting, and he may be ready to start next week, but more likely the following week. So things are moving along. And that's it.
Okay. Any questions for Tom?
Yes, a quick question, Tom. What about the railroad? They found a cavity underneath the track?
Yes. It looks like there was a void, a sinkhole settled, opened up right next to the tracks. When we opened it up further, it was basically adjacent to our water main. that had leaked from about 18 months ago. So with the void, the sinkhole that was opened up, they needed to do repairs to the tracks. I'm not sure exactly where all of that's going to fall out at this point in terms of all the work that was done and how much of that's going to be looked at as our responsibility, but it's been repaired, it's back in service, and I hear more, I'll report on it.
Well, don't panic too much. If it, first of all, you know, the town of Bethel was not negligent in the maintenance of that line. Second of all, one could make a compelling case that the trains themselves weaken the vibration and weight of the train, damage the line. But as far as I'm concerned, that's what Kerma Insurance is for.
Can I bring up one thing?
Yeah,
At the Kerma call last week, I did mention to them what had happened
yeah.
at the tracks there. They said submit the claim if it comes in, but both USI, which is our broker, and Kerma, Lindsay from Kerma, the underwriter, they weren't 100% agreeable that it was going to be covered.
Mhm.
So just want to let everybody know on the commission that it's not just, okay, we'll pay $10,000 deductible and it's a done deal. We may have to fight them in the vein of that they caused the original problem and the sinkhole is a result of their issue.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. Okay, Kelly, you're up. Supervisor's report.
Okay, I'm going to start with the generator, the 3 quotes we got on the generator. We finally got, we've got one from Caterpillar. That was one I was waiting on. We've got one from Cummings and one from Kingsley Kohler unit. Kingsley spec'd out a 300 kW unit for $140,000. It does not include the transfer switch. Cummings quoted the same size for $140,000. They again, now with the switch, and the one that we're in favor of is it's a Caterpillar unit. It's R&J Electric are the ones out of Brookfield that would actually do the install, but it's a CAT unit, and they feel that this can be done with a 250 kW generator. Now, I was looking through our paperwork over the past few months. They kept on saying you could probably get away with a 230, but they don't make a 230. That's what Cummins told us. That's what Kingsley told us. So talking to the guy from Caterpillar and the electrical contractor, he feels he can do it for $112,212. And the only added cost to that would be the $5,000 dismantle and removal of the old generator. He feels he can, we met with him again 2 weeks ago. He measured the pad that the old generator's on. He looked at we bought a tank about 2 years ago because we want to get rid of that underground tank. It's, I'm pretty sure it's a 1,000-gallon tank and it's double walled. And that tank and the generator will sit on the existing pad. So Tom and I have gone back and forth with it a few times, talking to the different contractors. I was leaning toward Cummings, but I just didn't feel comfortable with the salesman. This one guy, this Jeff Myers from CAP seemed very favorable. Plus he also, there's a discount in the rental unit. So we'd be getting that unit out. We wouldn't be paying as much for the rental unit that would go on the pad. And again, this will tie into the existing, I mean, of course, they're going to run new wire to the transfer switch. Now that we've okayed a new transfer switch, you know, we're going to be good to go right into the building. We're very comfortable with the 250 unit. We're getting rid of a 350 unit. I'm comfortable with CAT. You know, their service is a little bit more money than the other ones, but I feel comfortable with what they do. you know, their forte are these big generators, not like a Kohler. But I would suggest, and I think Tom feels the same way, that we'd like to go with the Caterpillar unit and get things moving over there. Right now, that's that 100 kW. We've got to kind of do little tricks to make it work. But the 250, we feel real strong with, and they did their sizing, and that's what they came up with. Another big thing, like we said about the tank, we've got that 2,000 gallon tank there that really needs to come out of the ground. We're looking at, we're going to need a new boiler in that building, and we should be able to, they don't feel there's any problem why we can't run off that existing tank. And at 1,000 gallons a tank, we should have no problem being able to keep up with that during a storm with our 100 gallon tank, just to keep it topped off. If we have to do it twice a day, once when we get into 7 and once when we go home at 3, we should have no problem with that. But our recommendation would be the Caterpillar.
What was the bottom line on that again?
Bottom line, Rich, would be $117,212. And again, just so you know, that does not include the transfer switch. So we
And how much is the transfer switch?
Well, we only got one quote, and that was from Kingsley, and they said it was 35,000. Now the price, since we got the original quote from Cat, it did go up about $6,000 or $7,000 because of what's going on with electrical wire and, you know, installations, and it's still good. It's still quite a savings.
And it was 6 months earlier, so he went up, but it was a January quote versus now a June quote.
And I'm just looking at the contract now. It's the contract's good for 10 days from the date that he gave us a proposal, but I don't see 3 or 4 days making that big of a difference. But I'd like to move forward on whoever to sign this and get this in place.
Will that run all 3 pumps if it had to?
It will, but our system will not run 3 pumps at once. It won't. You won't get any more max out of that than 2 pumps running at 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, summertime, we have to worry about AC because of the heat that's in that room with all the electrical. Of course, wintertime, not a big deal. We're really not concerned about sound barrier there. We're in the middle of a residential area, and not a residential, commercial area. And if you listen to Dayton Construction during the day when they got the crusher going, you're not even going to hear our generator over that.
Now, them pumps, are they variable speed,
Yes, sir.
submergible?
Yep.
So you're gonna be saving money on that too.
Yep. Yeah, well, our controls, we've already got variable speed controls in there that will operate what we have. To look at this, again, we have to look at this other style pump that we want to put in there. We have really done a lot of research on it. But yes, I mean, they start up slow, and we can slow them up more if we need to, just to get them started.
Back to the transfer switch, is this through Caterpillar?
The quote I have, no, it's from Kingsley. So I'm not, Paul, I'm not comparing apples to apples. I'd really like to talk to them, but I'd like to get the generator moving, you know, because he doesn't really give me a time, but a couple of the other contracts are talking 12 to 14 weeks.
And we'll get him to give us a formal quote on an auto transfer switch.
We can do that on a separate contract, however you want to do it. I mean,
Well, I'd suggest we get his quote now, and the fact that we're putting money in the budget for it, he doesn't need to know that necessarily, but we'll get his quote. And
Sure.
then what we'll do is just go forward with, go forward with it all at the same time.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, his generator quote was 23,000 less than the other two we received. And I didn't hold him to it, but I got a verbal on an auto transfer switch. I forget what he told me, but it was not near the 35,000 that we got a quote on from Kinsley. So I'm expecting the transfer switch is going to come in under the 35 anyway.
Well, Tom, do you want a motion to get the generator ordered? And we'll follow up next
Yeah.
week or month with the transfer switch quote?
Yes, I think that would be good. And actually, that's the number that I had included in capital, because obviously we're not going to be paying for it until after July 1 anyway. So I've already got that number in the budget, but yeah, we'd like to get your okay on going forward with the CAT unit.
All right, is this to RJ Electric or to Cummings? Are we buying it through RJ Electric or directly from Cummings?
Caterpillar.
It wouldn't be coming, it'd be Caterpillar, and I think we are dealing directly with R&J. Yeah, we're dealing with this, R&J Electrical Contractors, LLC, and they're out of
I'll
Brookfield.
make a motion that we approve the purchase of the Caterpillar generator from RJ Electric for $117,000. Is there any change on that, or was it?
No, that's all it was. It was, no, it was, 117,212 with zero change.
Okay,
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second from Pete. Any further discussion?
Yeah, and Tom, you're going to contact R&J directly about the transfer switch to see if there's perhaps a price adjustment, since we're buying
Yeah.
everything from them.
Yes, I'll get a quote from him. I'll tell him, hey, we're thinking about it, and give me a number on a replacement. And then if we do a second PO on the transfer switch here shortly, but once we decide we're going in that direction, then obviously we'll combine it and hopefully they can get delivered and installed at the same time.
Good. Okay. Do you want to, if you get that, if it seems feasible, do you want to just have a special meeting so we can just approve that quickly?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. That would be fine.
Fine.
I don't know how long it'll take them, but maybe it'll be another week or two, but yeah,
Okay.
we'll do that.
All right. Very good.
All right, any other discussion? And hearing none, I'll try your minds. Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, my next thing is replacement of a vehicle. We didn't do anything last year with our plow truck. Put a little money into it, soon to be all right. So we really, we didn't put too much into it, but it's got about 175,000 miles on it. It's the body's real bad shape. It's real rusty. So I got in touch with Gingras from East Hartford. That's who Bob uses, who we've been using for quotes, for state bid quotes. I told him I wanted a price on a Chevy and I wanted a price on a Ford. And he says Chevy will not do prices yet because of how crazy the market is. So if they gave me a quote, it would be for 2021. So I wouldn't be comparing apples to apples. So what he gave me a quote on was, I gave him the information I wanted on a truck. I wanted a 1-ton plow truck, 4-wheel drive, 8-foot bed, standard cab, bed liner, toolbox, and emergency lighting on it. Basically took all the options that we have in all of our other trucks. And for the Dodge Ram, it came out at $40,134.20, and the Ford at $350. Same thing, 8-foot bed, that came out to $39,825. So considering if we were to go for a new vehicle, we'd split that in half. Half would go to water, half would go to sewer, and it would be $20,000 on each side. When Tom and I were discussing the budget, I had suggested putting an extra 5 on each side because I really didn't know how, I had heard plows went up, but they didn't go up as much as I thought. So in the capital, we were talking 20,000 on each side. So that would just cover the Ford. Like I said, we were gonna do it last year, but with things crazy and now with they're having problems getting parts for the Chevy and Chevy won't give us a quote. I'm kind of presenting that to you right now. You can't get a 21 anywhere now. This would come from the factory. We probably wouldn't see it until the fall. I know Bob is waiting. I think he's been waiting about 4 months on a vehicle right now.
Well, who uses that vehicle?
Who would use it? That would be Justin. Justin.
You use it every day?
Yes, he does.
Is
Yeah,
it-
and that would give our fleet, it would put it in good shape. We have one truck left. That's the little Colorado that doesn't get a lot of miles on it. And that's got over 100,000 miles on it. That's starting to show a little bit of wear.
Kelly, what year is Justin's truck? If you know,
2007.
it's
got
14 years old.
Yeah.
Let me ask,
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
what about, do we get a special deal through the state?
Yes, and that's the quote from the state. That's the
Okay.
state bid from
Fine.
Ford and from Dodge.
Okay,
And I think that number's about in line with the last two trucks we bought. Is that correct, Kelly?
Yeah, it's off about 10,000, but remember that 10,000, we're not buying a plow. And that's a big piece. I want a 1 ton. I'm thinking of what it's going to be like to pave out behind the soccer field there. Not to pave, but to plow. I feel better with a 1 ton. I had thought about putting a plow onto my vehicle, which is a 1/2 ton, but I just don't think it's going to take the stress and the abuse to it.
All right, when you say the soccer field, you're talking the Bergstrom well,
Correct.
which I
Correct.
think that driveway is about 1,280 feet, so that's a
Yep.
pretty good run.
Yeah, I think it's something that may have to be opened up by the town if we get a major storm. But I think if the guys stay on it, they should have no problem with this truck.
Is this a new one or leftover?
No, this is brand new. Because I don't think we can get leftovers. I think the date is over on leftovers. Plus, there's really nothing on the lot.
Kelly, I don't even know that you'll get this truck in the fall.
Yeah, no, you're right. I don't want an extended cab. The guys have a habit of just throwing things in the extended cab. Plus, that's more money. I'd rather them have a locking toolbox in the back of the truck that they can keep their tools. If they've got to go for tools, they don't have that far to drive. They can go to one of the stations. I don't see the need for a utility box. That's what I'm trying to say. Just a simple crossover box in the back of the truck, as long as it's sturdy, would handle anything that they need to carry.
Okay. So do we have contingency left in the current fiscal year? Or does this have to go against the budget that we just passed?
Well, I can say, Matt, I already cranked in 20,000 in each the water and the sewer budgets to cover a vehicle.
Oh, so you're, all right, okay.
I already have it in the budget that we just approved.
Okay.
And we won't be seeing this vehicle before July 1. We'll be making this payment. Hopefully, we'll be making this payment in fiscal year 22.
Okay, all right, so what you had anticipated budget, that's fine.
Yes, I was budgeting to replace that 175,000 mile 14-year-old vehicle, yes.
We do get our money's worth out of them, don't we? All right,
Yeah, we do.
all right, I'll entertain a motion then. Anybody want to make a motion to replace the truck? All right, Rich,
So move.
second by Paul. Further discussion? And hearing none, I'll try your minds. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, a couple other things I got that aren't close to the money I just asked for. I do have a leak right now. It started showing the end of last week on the corner of South and Nashville. What I think it is, when they did the bridge culvert, when they ran the 12-inch through there, they disconnected the 4-inch, and we had to put a temporary feed in there for that 12-inch. So we did a tap on it, And we had a problem about 6 years ago with this leaking again. And it's starting to show itself slowly. So that's on my list to go after it. In this past month, we cut in a curb stop at 60 Grassy Plains into an old galvanized line that actually had a lead whip on it. Tom, the first lead whip I've seen since I've been here. So we got our bill.
All right, it's good we got it out, so that's what we're looking at.
Yep. Basically hydrants, the same thing. I've got 7 out of service. The guys have been working hard on the MIUs. We still got a good amount out there, but we're almost to the point now where I'm going to have Paula start scheduling the indoor ones. Majority of them are on the outside of the buildings. As for the middle school, the week beyond the middle school, Wednesday morning, that'll be taken care of. That'll be out of the way. There's nothing going on in the school Wednesday morning. They're supposed to be doing some other work on the boiler. I guess there's some valves in there that they've got some pretty drastic leaks on. So that'll be taken care of Wednesday morning. As for our flushing, we're still having a problem getting communication between the Eureka tank and the ball field. And we're running on, we're averaging between 80 and 90%. So we're not up to automatic on that. So again, as soon as we can make the 2 of them talk to each other, we're having quite a time with that. Then we're still going to do flushing. And as far as I'm concerned, we'll do the flushing during the hot season. We're just not going to flush it as hard.
What seems to be the problem with the communication? Why can't they figure it out? Is it because of the age of the equipment?
Well, yeah, it's kind of both. It's kind of the age of equipment, and they've got a PLC at Eureka that they put in, and they have another one at Pulse at the ballpark, and they just can't get the 2 of them to communicate. We're almost to the point we're pulling maybe pull the units out and get a different brand in there. Tom, you know that side a little better than I do.
Yeah, there's basically 3 variables. You got the PLC with the program that goes to it. And that program is, I don't know how old. And then there's a router that basically is gonna, kind of be the communicator between the 2 sites. And the equipment that they got in there is the router. They're having a hard time getting that equipment to work. So I told them, hey, look, get your hands on something else and try a different router, and then we'll just go from there. So the router they have is a Digi. I've never quite heard of that brand, but they're going to go with a Phoenix Contact, which is much more well-known. So hopefully next week that should be in, and we'll be trying out that communication.
Well, how long have they been working on this?
It's been a month, I'll bet you, right?
Are they charging it for all this time? or
Well,
what?
I haven't gotten any bills yet. I did get a bill for the original routers. So that's all I've paid to date. I'm gonna let them get it fixed, and then we'll see, what they think they want to bill us for.
Well, it's cool to fool around antiquated stuff, because you just bang your head against the wall.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of fooling around with it like that transfer switch, why fool around with something 30 years old? It's not gonna, it's gonna go
Yeah.
sooner or later.
Yep.
True.
Okay, the plant cleanup, I went through all the sewer plants, made a list for the 2 guys on their off days to do some work. We cleaned up by the firehouse, Pete, cut the brush around there. They're getting a lot of the garbage out of the inside of the plants. Like we've got a couple old pieces of equipment in there. We've taken that out to the dump. The only thing I haven't done yet is like you had mentioned about the building that's got the mildew on it. I want to get a pressure washer or something reasonable. And I think Bobby's got one down the garage, but we're going to work on that.
Kelly, the town bought a pressure washer 4 or 5 years ago, a gas powered one. I don't know who has it now, but the town did purchase one.
Yeah, might even have a park and rec, but I'll find out from the 2 of them to see, who has one. And as for the house with the cross connection that we think with the sewer line, we're in the middle of drafting a letter and getting it off to them and get that taken care of. But other than that, that's where I'm at.
One other thing, I don't know if you realize, I talked to the building department. We got a lot of houses going down Benedict Road out there. They're
Yeah.
raised ranches. A lot of them have bathrooms in the basement. And the lines are gravity. And if you read the plumbing code, it says any line, any bathroom that's lower than the manhole in the street needs a backwater valve on that toilet. I don't know if you realize this or anybody else realizes this, because if you get a backup, it's gonna go right in that basement and we're gonna end up paying for a cleanup.
Yeah, yeah.
I brought this up several years ago about a backwater valve. So it's something that they're looking into right now because there's no protection
Pete,
Especially with these
where-
baby.
Oh, yeah. But where's the break off point? I've always been told it's 10 feet from the house. What is our break off point to the home itself with the building inspector?
All right. We always stopped, years ago, when with septic, we always stopped 3 feet outside the house.
Hmm.
But the breakoff point would be that fall, I think falls under the jurisdiction of the building department because it's a horizontal line that comes off the main line.
Right.
That's where the backflow has to be put in. Because it's not to prevent, with these baby wipes and everything else you got going on, the sewer line, it won't take much to get sewer in these basements.
Sure.
And we paid, how many times have we paid to have it cleaned out?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so it's an issue that has to be addressed. And I gave them the section number and the code number, because it's under the 1 and 2 family code in the international code. So,
Okay.
all right.
All
So
right.
it's an
Very
issue.
good.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that.
All right. Well,
Well,
we're trying to get to the point where we're communicating better with the building department. We're trying to be on the same page and the same file so that they don't act without us and we don't act without them. And we're so close to getting it. So many permits have fallen through the cracks. We're in a good place now with them. But this is something that they should be aware of to tell us what they're finding in the house. Because the only time we're in the home is to inspect the water meter.
No, like I said, I called Chris just to let him know. I'm not here telling them how to do their job. I'm just saying it could be a legal issue later on. If it's something happened and they checked and found out they didn't have the backwater valve, we could have a problem.
And after we spoke, Pete, I mentioned it to Chris as well, so he's aware.
So he's aware of it, so.
And he knows it's within his realm.
Yeah, and it's simple because all they do is they can put it in and put a clean out right there to be able to maintain it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they are accessible, yeah.
I'd like to jump in here and let the commission know that for the past 6 months, Chris Baldwin has been rolling out the new online permitting system. And he's been using that for mechanical permits for the building department for many months now. Very, very successful. And right now we're in the process of building out that system to the other departments, including utilities. So when this is, and we're like within a couple of months of having this fully operational, and when that's done, these things will be linked so they can't fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And the communication will be tightened up. It's a very, very powerful system. I'm very excited about rolling this thing out. So this is help is on the horizon, coming soon.
And Mal, the good point you made there, Toll Brothers, that there were a lot of the ones that were falling between the cracks. And the crossings, the 2 crossings are done. I have nothing to do with them anymore. All the meters are in, everything's good. They're starting to work on the road a little bit to finalize that. And if you take a ride through the summit, I don't think there's more than maybe 25 units left to be done. So that's one big project that's been going on since I think 2009, maybe, that is finally gone or going to be gone this year.
Great.
Now, these MIUs that you're changing, when's the
Yep.
next time they have to be changed? How many years are they good for?
Probably 2040.
Okay,
Yeah,
We
that's,
have to think about
they're telling us $20 life expectancy. And like I said, the majority of them are on the outside of the buildings, but now we've got to start getting in the buildings, which is going to be another time killer. Now we don't have to deal with the COVID. So
All right.
that's it. That's all I got.
Hey,
Okay,
Kelly, how about my pressure tank?
I keep forgetting your pressure tank, Rich.
That keeps slipping through the cracks, it sounds like.
Yeah. I'm just so happy not to hear that pump coming on so many times right now.
all right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
No
So
move.
moved.
All right, we've got multiple motions and multiple seconds.
There you go.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you all.
Okay,
Thanks,
motion
everybody. Have a good evening.
carried. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Bye.
Yes.